It's there! Holy moly, this one's going to go big.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. We're going to have one more look at Big 50 in this video because a little bit of extra information has come to light over at Desert Island Fruits that I think allows us to kind of bring this story to a close. If you remember, in the previous video about this machine, we had some footage of the real thing doing the fabled Big 50. Then we had a look in the emulator where I said over the years I'd never seen it do the 50 quid and nobody else ever had either by all accounts. However, if you let the thing get enough of a drift in its favour, it would then do the 50 quid. So it hadn't been completely chipped out. The machine just had to be able to afford it in a way that it would never be able to if you kind of played it properly. So our assumption was that at some point JPM had changed the machine, they'd issued a chip that changed the behaviour of it, and we also looked in this video here, when I opened the doors on the machines, we were able to see that we had what I assumed were two different ROM revisions running. And if we have a look there, if you remember when we opened the doors on the real thing, that one said BF8. And when we opened when we opened the door in the emulator, we got BF12. My theory on that was that what we were looking there was the ROM revision. So I'd say that we were most of the way there in sussing this one out. However, the one thing that came out of this when I started the thread over at Desert Island Fruits, because every time I upload a video to YouTube, and I've done this for the whole of the Harry Headwound channel, I start a thread over at Desert Island Fruits in this forum here, FME Video Showcase. The idea is obviously that if anyone wants to have a chat about the video, anything that we've seen in there, have a chat about the machine and around it, that kind of thing, we'll do it here in this thread, or rather in this forum, with each video having its own thread. I did say when I started the Harry Headwound channel that the way I was going to handle comments was have them just turned off. I explained all my reasons for that in the first video on this channel. I'll just put a little picture of it on the screen for you so you can see. However, for the last few months now, comments have been enabled, but I've not been getting involved with the comments themselves. Please don't think I'm being rude. It's just that it's really, really exhausting to try and reply to all the comments on videos, keep up with all of them, and, you know, get into all those different conversations. You know, some of the videos aren't getting that many comments on them, but others are getting maybe 20 or 30 comments. It's just far more conversations than I can have going on. So as I said in that first video on the Harry Headwound channel, please, if you want to have a chat about anything that you see in the videos, sign up over at Desert Island Fruits, join us there, and that's where we'll have a chat about them. And that we've had, I have to say, over the last couple of years, we've had some really interesting conversations in these threads over at Desert Island Fruits about all kinds of different stuff. And in this one here, we've really hit something great, because if we scroll down a little bit there, you can see we've had a little bit of a chat about it. Mort has been doing some digging around in the different ROMs, what looked like the date revisions and all that sort of thing. But the real motherlode here, if we go down, is this one here, which was posted by the Altered Emu here just a few days ago as I record this video. Can you see? Absolutely perfect, and really nails down what happened to this machine. So what you can see there on the left hand side, program. Now the way that JPM are referring to this is series, each series being a rechip, and they're just using a simple numbering system there. You can see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So that corresponds, when you've got the door open here, BF8 means a series 8 ROM, BF12 obviously means a Series 12 ROM. So if we go back to this here, so we've got a Series 8 there, and we've got a Series 12 there, and can you look at what happened in between those two back on the 11th of May 1998, Titan percent control in arcade mode. So by the time we got to Series 12, which is what we have in the emulator, that was in September 1998, that actually, interestingly as well, those ROMs are switchable. The ROMs that we're running in the emulator actually switch to £15, and they also added the Whitbread mode. Now, I'll get onto the Whitbread mode in a second, but what we can see there is that between Series 8, which is the ROMs that were running in that real machine, which did the natural Big 50, just in the normal course of play, those ROMs will quietly put some aside, effectively into a streak pot, to pay for 50 quid. BF12 never does that. If you play this machine even remotely properly for a JPM, it will just never get to the point where it can afford the 50 quid, and it won't do it. However, it will if you let it get a big enough drift. And now we can see that between those two ROMs, Series 11 JPM did indeed, and they don't give us a huge amount of information, but it just says Titan percent control in arcade mode. So that really gives us that final piece of the puzzle here, in that we can see that what happened was JPM did indeed change the fundamental behavior of this machine so that it stopped being software that would naturally save to do that 50 quid. Now, on the Whitbread ROMs, because somebody was asking about that. Now, I have covered the Whitbread ROMs. Let's just carry on to page 2. Somebody was asking what the Whitbread ROMs were. Boulder Dash there is given a decent little explanation, which is basically the long and short of it, really, which was that the Whitbread ROMs were something that the Beefeater and Brewers Fayre chain wanted, owned by Whitbread, to provide flatter profiles. They were less streaky. The idea was you get more features, more small wins, and all that kind of thing. So Boulder Dash is absolutely right there. But what I'm also making the point there is that I have covered the Whitbread ROMs in that video there, which has already been re-uploaded to the channel, John Frankum's Winner's Enclosure, because we had the Whitbread ROMs for that machine, and I gave a little bit of an explanation there. What, in typical Degsy style, what Boulder Dash managed to do in a couple of sentences there, I of course managed to waffle on for quite some time, but that is the long and short of it, is that Whitbread, that those owners of those big pub chains wanted machines that were less appealing to those terrible, degenerate professional players, and were better for, you know, the dad holding up his 4-year-old so he could press the buttons and get their first gambling fix and get them on the route to being a future addict. So that's the Whitbread ROMs. By the way, this conversation is still going on because apparently there are more of these things going around with these info sheets, like the original JPM info sheets, which are brilliant because they give us a history of the rechips, the ROM revisions, and also the dates and what they were doing. So, you know, for a lot of this stuff, it's what we can either remember and or observe ourselves in the emulator or the real machine where it's available, but it's very, very rare that we have this available, which is the actual manufacturer's notes that they released for this. That one there is for Monopoly 60. Now, as I record this video, we're apparently there's more of these going around, so some of these might be getting uploaded in due course. For now, we've just got the two, but obviously the one that's relevant to Big 50 is that. Where is it? There it is, that one there, which tells us that at Series 11, JPM did change how this machine behaved. Now, exactly how this fits in with single stake and arcade And, you know, Titan percent control does sort of suggest that maybe it wouldn't let itself get as far behind as it did in the emulator. But what you've got to remember is that this information it's very limited. They're not necessarily going to go into the absolute nuts and bolts of what they've done. I suppose part of that would be that, you know, maybe their competitors could get hold of these. Also, what it's looking like is that well, rather we are, there's no doubt about that, is that what we're running in the emulator here are the single site ROMs. And this thing here, this sheet here is specifically talking about arcade mode. However, the point is made also here that quite often these alleged settings, these different settings for the different locations, they can literally just be a flag. Like one will have a flag for arcade and one will have a flag for single site. But if you look at the contents of the ROM beside that, they are like byte for byte identical. So even though they're specifically talking about arcade mode there, you may very well find that the single site ROMs are identical. They've just got a different flag. They've got a different title, effectively. But for me, that really does nail down what we've seen here. It explains what we've observed ourselves. It explains what we saw that real machine did. It explains the comments in the video on Fruity Loopy's channel. All that kind of stuff where there's a general consensus of opinion that somewhere along the line, JPM changed this machine so it stopped doing the 50 quid, and now we can see it. And it fits in with what we've got there, because we've got a Series 8 that did the 50 quid, a Series 12 that won't do the 50 quid unless you do really weird stuff to it, and Series 11 all the way back in May 1998 saying Titan percent control in arcade mode. That's good enough for me, and I think it's worth just having a little extra mention about this, because I do like it. With Fruit Machine Emulation, this is one of the best things about Fruit Machine Emulation for me, is that all these years later, not only do we get to play these machines, that's the first thing, of course, we can play these machines in the emulator today. That's fantastic, but we can also take it further and do stuff that we just couldn't at the time. This was not a thing. Unless you were like in the industry or an operator, you've got to remember, of course, that back in 1998, 97, I mean, this machine was originally released in 96. This is before the days of social media. It's before the days of widespread internet adoption. I mean, I only got on the internet in the mid-90s. It's before the days of this real quick and easy dissemination of information all over the place. So one of the biggest gifts for me of Fruit Machine Emulation is that we get to kind of unpick and investigate stuff that we just couldn't do at the time, on stuff that maybe we just had to make assumptions about or best guesses about. So to actually be able to retrospectively apply evidence like this and new knowledge to things that happened in the past and make more sense of them, I think is great. So that's a brilliant, even though it's just one simple little black and white sort of text block there, it gives us a huge amount of information, and I think it works really well in putting this one to bed for us, and now we understand what happened to Big 50. So that's all I want to say about Big 50. There's just a couple of other little things. Since we're here doing a little bit of a tidy up, these are two other things that I wanted to do a follow-up on previous videos that didn't justify a video of their own. So whilst we're here, I'll do that. This one here, Ace's Hidden Treasures. Now that was a new video for the Harry Headwound channel that I uploaded 4 months ago, talking about the Hidden Treasures machines and their big... Oh, hang on. There we are, the Hidden Treasures machines and their big crazy streaks. And I was talking about particularly Play It Again and having a punt at when I thought they first appeared in pubs. Well, over at Desert Island Fruits, a chance would have it, after I uploaded that video, was a little bit of extra evidence for this in Coin Slot, which Nails uploads for us over at Desert Island Fruits in a thread there. The new stuff, like I think I've said before, is not particularly of interest to me, but what is of interest to me is the historical stuff where they have a sort of an issue from the archives, as it were. That zoom is doing absolutely fuck all there, is it? Let's try the zoom in the thing itself. Oh, there we are. Well done, Degsy. So can you see there? That is from the 3rd of May, 1991. We've also, one just slight aside there, we've got, that is when Spotlight was released by Meigei. So that gives us a date there for Spotlight by Meigei, which, if you remember that was a new machine with the funky kind of Yamaha style sound. So we've got a date for that. Couple of BFM machines there as well, but they're clubs, unfortunately. However, that one there, that advert down at the bottom, in all the bars, in all the world, Aces play it again. So they've got a front page advert in coin slot. We've got the date there, May 1991. So obviously, if you're going for a front page advert on coin slot, that's going to be like expensive advertising real estate, isn't it? So that gives us a good solid date for when Play It Again was a new machine which Ace were promoting, of May 1991. That was actually about where I guessed at in that video, but I do think it's interesting, again, when we get a little bit of corroborating evidence, something historical from the archives that actually allows us to put, real facts and figures, irrefutable evidence. A little bit like the AWP jackpot dates video, where Jason did that great research and we finally got actual dates when all the different jackpot revisions came in, because that was something that we talked about so much over the years, because it's another bit of information that kind of gets lost to time. So on this one, it's just handy. That's all I wanted to say about that. Literally just, there you go. We've got a date for Play It Again, May 1991, which fitted in broadly with what my memories were from that video. The only other one that I just wanted to do a quick catch up, if you remember the big wheel video, that was from earlier this year, May this year. The big thing on that one was that I left it, if you remember, with an absolutely obscene drift. Can you see up at the top there? This machine owed the player £1,700 and it was on an £8 jackpot. And the question that I left that video on was, will this thing ever get back to percentage? My theory was that it would, that the machine did know how far behind percentage it was. If you opened the doors and looked at the meters, yes, the machine knew where it was up to. It just wasn't correcting itself at all if you left it on autoplay. My intention was to pick that up and slowly over time, just put 50 quid in it here and there, and slowly over time try and bring it back to percentage. However, Mikey Monster over at Desert Island Fruits, you can see here, this is another one that we had a good chat about. This is why I would respectfully ask you, folks, if you're watching this video and you do want to have a chat with people about this, I would, like I say, respectfully ask you to sign up over at Desert Island Fruits and join us for a conversation over there, because we do get into this stuff quite deep here. You can see we've got a fairly lengthy thread here. A lot of people having a chat about this. Yes, I appreciate it's not as easy as leaving a comment on a YouTube video. You do have to register, and there's a couple of hoops to jump through in that regard. Well, once you're registered as a user here, you'll be free to post in the middle of all the rest of us here, and we do have some good conversations about things. On this one here, it was Mikey Monster who picked up the baton, as it were, and basically tried to play it back to percentage. And the long and short of it on that one is he did. Can you see there? He got it back from, remember, at the end of that video, it owed us £1,700. I uploaded the layout with that RAM and GAM file over to Desert Island Fruits. Mikey Monster picked it up and he got it back to percentage. So that machine did correct a drift of £1,700 back to the player, but it did need to be played properly. It wasn't correcting itself. If you remember, One of the points of that video was the thing was just not correcting itself. Didn't matter how long I left it going for with the autoplay, the machine never just started spinning in jackpots or doing really, really easy wins to try and get back to percentage. It was bottoming out at about 67%, and I put £10,000 through it using autoplay, and it was just hanging out at around 67%, so 17% off target. Well, Mikey Monster got it back to target, and he got it too, you can see there. And what he also noticed, by the way, because I asked what happened when it got to 84%. Did it sort of go back to playing normally? And what Mikey's saying there is it got pretty much bang on 84%. So all the way back up to 84%. It was like in JPM happy mode. You know, it's numbering. It's going to give you not every single board and not every single win is going to gamble to a jackpot or anything like that. But we all know that JPM numbering happy state where it's going to give you the jackpot opportunities. It's going to give you the bigger features that can pay the bigger wins up to and including the jackpot. A jackpot might repeat. It'll give you, on big wheels case, you're looking at the decent line features. And it's going to go past those first couple of features, which are a bit crap. What Mikey found is that essentially, as soon as he got to 84.01%, it all of a sudden wanted £17 for 2 boards, the first of which killed me second spin. So you had it until it had paid back that 1,700 quid. It was in JPM happy mode. It then got to 84.01% and just climbed up straight away. Went back into, oh my God, I need to take some money. And you can see there he's saying it was like the difference between night and day. So that was interesting. I wasn't quite sure how it would behave in that regard. I was pretty sure it would get back to percentage because we've seen it before. If you remember in the video that I made about the Untouchables, there was a similar kind of effect. And in the case of the Untouchables, I played it back to percentage myself. So we had seen it before in that regard. So I thought it would get back to percentage. I was very interested, though, to hear that even after that massive drift, the machine knew exactly where it was up to. And the second it went just a smidge over percentage, it immediately clammed up. So you can see there, it doesn't care how far behind percentage it gets. But the second it gets a little bit over, it absolutely clamps up and corrects itself. So that was all the way back in May that Mikey Monster posted that. I've been in the back of my head to do a little bit of an update on that one, but it didn't seem, like worth making a whole video about it. But you can see that was another good conversation that we had over there as well. So, but the main one for this video is that fella there, which is solving the riddle of Big 50. Secondary points, just getting that really handy little date there for when Play It Again was a new machine. And I remember that. I do remember Play It Again turning up in the pubs and the arcades when it was the shiniest new machine in there. We've got a date there of May 1991. 33 years ago. Fuck me, I am old. And we've also got... yes, Big Wheel did get back to percentage. Thanks for Mikey Monster. So there you go. I think that is everything for this video. So couple of little sort of riddles been solved there. A couple of extra bits of information come to light that have allowed us to put a couple of stories to bed. So thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll catch up with you next time. But for now it is goodbye.